I think as human beings, we get so caught up in the outside world and the busyness of the world, and we lose that deep connection to our quiet inner world, I think. And I think, I mean, everybody's different. When I'm working with people, I quite like quiet space. I quite like quiet time because I think that's where magic happens.
Yeah. And I think I remember back when I first started working in mental health services, and I didn't have any of that sense of there being anything other than the world of our thinking, of feelings coming and going, which I think for all human beings, that's just, we're in it, aren't we? We're in life, and every moment of life you're feeling something. And the degree of an intensity of those feelings might determine how heavy or light that journey through life is. And my experience starting off was that often, depending on jobs and circumstances or situations, my thoughts and feelings could get so overwhelming that it was hard to kind of even recognize how to get a quiet mind, or it almost felt like you were just trying to find lots of different ways in order to achieve that. And I think that's what we get told as well, isn't it? Like there's so, starting off in my sort of career, I remember lots of websites like getselfhelp.co.uk and a lot of sort of psychological strategies and techniques in order to manage, I guess, this feeling and experience of the outside world.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And I think back to a previous job I had, and the NHS being the NHS, there were lots of targets for recovery. And I remember at that time, I was working in it was an inner city. And I remember thinking, how can we be expected to meet recovery targets in an inner city situation the same as for, say, a wealthy market town situation? Because I really believed back then that our surroundings were what impacted on our mental well-being.
Right.
And I thought, this isn't fair to expect this. And yet now I see it really differently. Without doubt, there are some situations that humans are in life that, we would all see as really tricky, really horrid situations. And even in the worst of situations, I know that there's a possibility to feel that deep peace, because it isn't the situation that creates our inner world. It's our inner world that creates the peace, and that isn't impacted on by the outer world that we're in. I'll be honest, I sometimes struggle with the idea, because there is a lot of suffering, but I see that suffering can happen, and we can also have inner peace and well-being. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. And I think, that was one of the revelations for me, I guess, in terms of, I think when we first started working where we do now, there was just this talk about innate health, and it really struck me that I think for the past 7 or 8 years of training and working in mental health services, I hadn't even heard about innate health, and you cover things like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and psychodynamic therapy. You get a real good understanding of treatment and therapies for problems. And I remember just hearing this term innate health and really sort of finding it puzzling that I hadn't heard of this before now. I was meant to have worked in mental health and been quite experienced, to be honest. Like I felt like I'd covered most things that were out there, in terms of what helps people when they're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, and things can, like you say, affect our functioning, and we feel struggle. This is meant to be our area of expertise, if you like. People came to us to know how to find that peace that you were describing. And then someone's talking about innate health, and I'm like, oh, what's that? How come I haven't come across this before? That's just strange in a way, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. And I think it is a reflection of how we've missed the point often, in that, we're working hard to achieve mental well-being, physical well-being. We put so much effort in that it takes us away from it. We work hard to understand our minds, other people's minds, the way we think, and we miss the fact that health is already in us. It's already there. Yeah. It's not about doing more to find it. It's about just getting quiet and seeing and experiencing it.
Yeah. And what I think made it very interesting at the time is, I remember you talking about innate health in the office, and your sort of, that your feeling when you were talking about it was enthusiastic, and it was like it had made such a difference. And that was just really interesting in itself, that people were reading books about this simple understanding of resilience and well-being just being innate within us, and just having life-changing experiences overnight. And all of this worry and stress just falling off someone when you see them the next day. So it was like their personalities had just changed in an instant.
Yeah.
Bizarre. I'm not used to that.
It is. And you know what, Anthony? That was my experience of you. When you started to get curious about your innate health, the Anthony that I met absolutely was very gentle, very caring and loving and giving. But the Anthony now that I know, that is just so calm and accepting and open, the transformation overnight, in that, I mean, it felt like overnight, I'm sure it didn't for you, but that kind of sense of being with you was a whole different level.
Right.
And I don't mean to embarrass you, but it's a real sense of, you can sit with Anthony and you just are peaceful. Because there's a kind of connection there, that you deeply hold that innate health, and it's impossible to miss that.
Yeah. And it's hard, isn't it? Because I guess for us as individuals, we probably, I don't know, I feel it probably feels like a blind spot for me, because it's hard to kind of recognize, I guess, that, like you say, the shifts that perhaps have been happening for us internally. And you hear stories about how people just look younger. Like you might have seen someone at 2 years ago and had a bit of an insight, and you won't see them, say, for a year or two, and they might crop up somewhere and they'd look a totally different person almost. You don't recognize them.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, that's because they're showing up as a different person, I think.
Yeah.
They're showing up with their innate health at the forefront. It's there, that's who they are. They're no longer so caught up in that complicated, busy thinking that we think we need to do something about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we just need to let it be.
And I think that just sort of illustrates, when you hear people's stories of not just change, but transformation,
Yeah.
I think that really highlights the power of what is available when we go into that different space that's always there within us, as opposed to trying to fathom out change and trying to kind of figure it all out in this outer world, this world of thought and things and the world outside.
Yeah.
And the marvelous, like you said, the marvelous thing is that every human being has this. That's literally kind of just sitting in it.
Yeah.
But just at times we're not all seeing it.
That's it. It's almost that phrase comes to mind, you can't see the wood for the trees. We're right in it. It's surrounding us. We're bathed in it. And yet we don't experience it because we experience the busyness of our thinking often. But we don't even have to do anything to see it. It's right there. It's just about letting yourself be with it in that peaceful place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that over the course of maybe like the past 2 years for me, Sarah, I think there definitely are times, when I get caught up in thoughts again and they begin to look real, you feel your thinking.
Yeah.
And when that thinking's insecure and doubt, it's almost like what we call ego. It becomes this sort of self-image of ourselves as this person, and that's the falseness of it all.
Yeah.
And I think I'm getting better gradually. You always kind of know that it's ego and it's you're thinking in the moment, but like you say, once you just stop taking it all so seriously and lighten up, it flows through more. You're not holding it and grasping it and keeping it close to you.
Yeah, it's not as sticky.
That's right. And insights. So when you see this as a not a concept or a nice idea, but you've really gone to that sort of quiet place within your consciousness and have taken a jump and seen it in a different perspective and through a nice feeling of who we really are. It makes such a big difference. It's almost like you just get better at being able to do that, just to get back to that place which is before all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the very nature of experience is, as we were speaking a bit earlier about life as it's meant to be just now. Everything's perfectly as it is just now, and that's all right. And if we can experience life as it is without trying to make it different or seeing it as wrong or seeing whatever we're going through as suffering and difficult and wanting to change it, if we can just know that where we are moment to moment is where we're meant to be, for me, that's where that peace of mind sits. Not having to try and change it, knowing that it'll change all on its own when it's meant to.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy. I say that as if I'm always in that place, and I'm not. You know, I get caught up in my thinking a lot at times. And I know on one level that I'm caught up and I won't be there forever. And that in itself is something that draws me back to that inner peace, those good feelings that always lay within, because I know that I'm not there. When I'm in that busy stuff that's feeling a bit rubbish, that's a real indicator to say, oh, you've stepped away. You're not in your inner peacefulness. You're not in that intuitive world inside you. Because if you were, you wouldn't be experiencing all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the joy of it. When we experience the busy stuff, it's just another glorious sign to say, we've got a bit lost again. That's all right. We'll get back.
Yeah. And that's the key, isn't it? There's no answers to be found in all of the problems and the thinking, and it's very seductive. And that image of ourselves as being that ego wants to keep us locked there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It almost feels like we don't have the free will almost. It feels like it's inevitable that we end up there. But I think that insight is really important in order to see that we must have the free will to have gone there.
Yeah.
That's the true meaning, I guess, isn't it? That there's a risk that we can get so caught up in all of the outside stuff. It's the inside.
You can't help it. That idea that as human beings we're here and we couldn't help it, and there's nothing we can do, and I guess there's nothing we need to do, and there's nothing we need to help.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about recognizing where we're at, and when we've maybe stepped away a little bit from our inner worlds that are always a place to go for those feelings that we seek as humans. They're there anyway, I think, like you often say, when we're suffering, what we're seeking is to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start with lots of behaviors, or that's just us innocently not seeing our innate health and thinking we've got to do something to feel good. But when we know that it's there within us, we're less likely to do stuff, helpful or unhelpful, if you want to categorize it. Although it probably is all. I probably see it all as a little bit unhelpful, even the stuff that we innocently do to try and help ourselves, I guess, because we don't need to.
Yeah.
We just need to go back to that home base that's within us.
And I think for me, the thing that's been so valuable in hearing something beyond that has been seeing more and more that life is a spiritual reality, that there's lots of words that people might use, isn't there, for this inside, and we said in the previous recording, like we're not literally meaning inside, because what we're referring to has no form. It has it's you've got the world outside, which is tangible and looks physical, but that beyond, that before world is where everything flows from. It is the creator of all our thoughts and feelings and things in the world. But it's there that you find your answers. That's where healing or beautiful feelings arise from. It's in the center of you. And when you become centered in that, you give up that sort of sense of image of this is how it is, this is who I am, and it being fixed.
Absolutely. And it's that place that we don't need to see. We don't need to know what it looks like, what it feels like, and we can't know any of that stuff. But that's all right, because it'll always be there anyway. Whether we believe it's there, see it's there, feel it's there, it's just there.
Yes.
We don't need to do anything about that. It just is. And I think, we all will see that differently. For me, I might talk about that as the energy of the universe. It's what makes the leaves grow. It's what makes the birds migrate. It's that stuff. And for somebody else, they'll talk about it as God or faith or religion. Or I think ultimately, and I think in our society at the moment, we're a bit afraid of talking about that stuff.
Yes.
It's a little bit uncomfortable, and certainly in mental health services, it's not seen as the place to go to. But I think if we really deeply sit with it, as human beings, there's always stuff that we can't see and know, and that's cool. That's cool. It's when we don't like the coolness of that, and we don't like the idea that we don't know it. And if we don't know it, it can't be. That's when we end up living very much in the form world. We lose the formless and we live in this human ego world of stuff and thinking and what we can understand. And that's got its place. It's quite fun there sometimes. But the formless is where it's at.
Yeah.
And we do.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go, Anthony.
And I think because, Sydney Banks always said, we're all searching for ourselves, our true selves. And I think you're right, like you'll only find it when we go within, like it's
Yeah.
the universe or the energy is if we let that guide us, that you will find your authentic self. It's you'll always feel like you're doing the thing that is right for you versus all of the expectations and beliefs and thinking that's clouded us seeing and being able to kind of follow that in a way.
Absolutely. I think I was just thinking about our conversation just now and how it really kind of illustrates we didn't plan what we would talk about. We kind of had a bit of an idea of a theme or a topic, and this is the same each week, isn't it? We don't plan it. We don't have the words set out, and yet something comes. Something comes, and it doesn't come from our thinking, because I don't think we're that quick at our thinking. It just comes. And how incredible that we don't need to plan in advance the words that come out. They just come out. And actually they don't much matter. It's the feeling that comes with the words, I think. It's the feeling that comes in a conversation, in a sharing. It's not so much about the formed words. It's about conveying that feeling.
Nice. Yeah. So maybe we'll end on that note, Sarah.
Without the words, just the feelings.
Nice.
And Anthony, my feelings today have been ones of real warmth and just being, and that's priceless. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll see everybody again next week for another conversation.
And I look forward to it.
Bye.